It was a chilly Friday evening when Graham Thompson wrapped up yet another grueling week at work. As a middle manager at a tech firm in Seattle, he often thrived in the chaos of deadlines and deliverables. But deep down, there was an unshakable need for stability in his home life, one he believed he had achieved with his wife, Lydia. They had been married for over 10 years, years filled with laughter, love, and a shared vision of a beautiful future. Graham was that reliable husband who put his family first, always available to help with the kids' homework or to lend a sympathetic ear to Lydia after a long day. But that evening, as he sat in their living room, the smell of coffee mingling with the faint scent of a candle lit by Lydia, he couldn't shake an unsettling feeling. Lydia had been coming home late more frequently, always armed with excuses that felt more strained each time. He had brushed off his instincts, convincing himself that perhaps he was simply being paranoid. The night wore on, and Graham decided to check their joint bank account, a routine he had often neglected in trust of Lydia's transparency. As he logged in, dread crept over him. A series of sizable transactions caught his eye: luxury restaurants, electronics purchases, and an unexplained siphoning of funds. Each detail whispered of betrayal. Graham's heart raced, the sensation of claustrophobia narrowing his vision as he delved deeper into the activity log. That's when it hit him, a name he recognized all too well. Derek, a charming colleague of Lydia's, whose charisma and affable nature he had welcomed into their homes over the years. Graham had always considered Derek a friend, someone he could enjoy a beer with after work or discuss weekend plans. But now, as he stared at the screen, he felt the bile rise in his throat. Lydia's love for him now seemed like a gilded cage that Derek had clandestinely invaded. With each passing moment, the brush strokes of the portrait of their idyllic life began to fade. He recalled the moments of intimacy shared with Lydia, her laughter ringing through their home. But now that laughter was replaced by dark thoughts of her with another man. How could she betray him so carelessly? The lure of betrayal was a potent sorcerer, dragging him into a whirlwind of rage and disbelief. Fueled by this inexorable fury, Graham knew he had to act. He felt like a soldier preparing for an unseen battle, steeling himself for the confrontation that lay ahead. He was done being passive in a dynamic he once thought to be as reliable as the sun rising with every dawn. Instead, he wouldn't just expose the treachery. He'd dismantle the very world they built, brick by brick. The following morning, Graham laid a trap, meticulously planning his strike. He remembered a company gala planned for the next weekend, an annual event where Lydia would be forced to flaunt her facade alongside Derek. He knew that if he unveiled her indiscretion there, in front of friends, colleagues, and the tight-knit community that they had both cherished beneath thick layers of trust, it would be the final act of destruction. As the day approached, Graham's excitement turned into a palpable energy, a delicious thrill that tingled beneath his skin. He began collecting evidence, snapping screenshots of transactions, saving text exchanges that hinted at their closeness, weaving together a damning narrative that would expose the true colors of the people he once loved. On the night of the gala, Lydia, colorful and radiant, stepped into the venue, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath her carefully arranged makeup. When Graham arrived shortly after, he fought back a wave of anxiety that threatened to humble him. With every step he took towards the crowd gathered at the lavish venue, he felt powerful, a predator prepared to reveal the truth lurking within their heart. As the evening progressed, he noticed the twinkle in Lydia's eye whenever Derek approached her. Each laugh shared felt like an incantation, more potent than any argument. Graham slowly crafted his perfect moment, poised and ready. When the dinner turned to dessert, Graham stood up, his hands clutching a full glass of Sauvignon Blanc. The room quieted down as he called for attention. Lydia's smile faltered, confusion filling her gaze. "Lydia," he began, his voice steady yet simmering with emotion. "We've built this beautiful dream, haven't we?" He felt the weight of their friend's eyes on him. The thrill was intoxicating. But there's something I need to address, something that stirs beneath the surface of our seeming perfection. He took a deep breath, holding up his phone. "How you've made choices that obliterate our commitment?" like splurging on lavish dinners instead of supporting your family. And that's not all. This is evident in the text messages and transactions that expose a rich romantic connection you've cultivated with Derek. Gasps erupted throughout the room as images of the payments and screenshots cascaded across the screen behind him. Lydia turned pale, her composure fluttering as reality came crashing down. Derek, standing nearby, visibly shrank under the mounting pressure. He was not the charming colleague anymore, but a coward, caught in the crosshairs of a life he never prepared for. Lydia, Graham continued, now looking directly into her bewildered eyes, it's over. I'll never beg for a love that's already been squandered. You both can wear your betrayal like a badge, but I refuse to be your fool. As Liam's betrayal hung in the air, every friend in that room felt the icy blast of social judgment. Lydia's demeanor shifted from shock to stuttering desperation. Her lips parted, words tangling within a web of isolation. That night marked the beginning of Graham's transformation. What was once a loyal husband's naive trust turned into a sharpened blade, cutting through the marrow of betrayal. With meticulous precision, he took command of this narrative, orchestrating the destruction of the lives that had betrayed him. He savored the exhilaration, knowing he held the reins. No more would he allow lies to fester in the dark corners of his reality. The protagonist of his own story moved decisively toward a world that demanded justice, one where his moral high ground would eclipse the ruins of the past. The aftermath of Graham's explosive revelation reverberated throughout the gala, a twist of fate that transformed him from a neglected husband into a fierce warrior wielding the sword of truth. Lydia stood paralyzed in the crossfire of social judgment, her once bright aura dimming as she faced the consequences of her betrayal. Friends shifted uncomfortably, whispers ricocheted through the crowd, and laughter evaporated, replacing camaraderie with a heavy silence. As the aria of chaos played on, Graham relished a sense of power that felt intoxicating, the spark of revenge igniting a fire in him that he never knew existed. Lydia's face twisted in horror, each shard of devastation cutting deeper than he anticipated. The shockwaves from his words rippled throughout the room, reverberating with the echo of their shattered relationship. He didn't just want the truth to come to light. He wanted her to experience a desolation akin to what she had put him through. Lydia's initial struggle unfolded as she tried to regain her composure, tears forming in her eyes as she glanced toward Derek, who had awkwardly retreated to the sidelines as if he could dissolve into the crowd. The facade of the affluent, happily married couple, crafted over years of shared success, lay in tatters at their feet. "Graham, please," Lydia implored, her voice trembling as she took a tentative step towards him. "This is a misunderstanding." Graham let out a hollow laugh, the sound echoing through the shrill silence that enveloped them. "A misunderstanding? You think that your secrets, your financial deceit, can be dismissed as mere confusion? This is betrayal, and it deserves exposure." As Lydia desperately sought support from the onlookers, Graham felt a surge of adrenaline. The tide was turning. Friends whom they had once considered confidants shifted their allegiance, exchanging pitying glances at his suffering spouse while maintaining a safe distance from the unfolding disaster. Their whispered voices carried disdain, fueling Graham's resolve. He wanted Lydia to feel utterly alone, to experience the abject horror of realizing that her choices had led her to social exile. With each passing moment, Derek, now realizing his own imminent ruin, attempted to step up and defend Lydia, causing Graham's adrenaline to spike. "Graham, man, let's not do this here. It's a party. We can talk this out like adults," he stammered, anxiety flickering across his features. Graham's heart raced at Derek's feeble attempt at diplomacy. "Talk it out?" he challenged, a sardonic smile creeping across his face. "It's a little too late for adult conversations, Derek. You've both revealed your true selves in the most spectacular fashion." Within moments, Derek's nerves shattered completely. He had been a charming tempter, lured by the prospect of someone else's wife, but now stood exposed, stripped of his bravado, amidst the disdain of a gathering that had once looked up to him. In a desperate bid for self-preservation, he tried to distance himself from Lydia's sinking ship. "I have nothing to do with this. I thought you weren't happy." I thought she wanted to be with me." Graham stepped closer, invading Derek's personal space, asserting dominance. "You thought wrong, didn't you? Did you truly believe that you could sneak in and steal my wife, my life, without consequences?" The atmosphere crackled with tension as Graham rounded on Lydia, his voice cold, yet filled with a simmering disappointment that felt like shards of glass. "You gave everything away for a cheap thrill. You mocked our years, our family, for what? What could he possibly offer that outweighed the love we shared?" He could see fragments of guilt and regret slicing through her desperate masking of emotions, triggering a painful reflection in her gaze. Behind the veneer of anger and betrayal, Graham recognized that Lydia had attempted to escape the confines of their unraveling marriage, an exploration that had turned into a destructive spiral. He could almost hear the pulse of her panic, beating like a drum. But he wasn't interested in reconciliation. Instead, he craved retribution. After the chaos began to simmer down, Graham swiftly transitioned from emotional turbulence to calculated precision. Lydia's pleas now sounded like whimpers as the crowd thinned, drawing back from their once beloved couple. The social fabric of their lives was ripping, and Graham found satisfaction in the destruction. It was a bittersweet melody of revenge, morphing into triumph. Days turned into weeks as the ripples of that night spread through the community. Graham harnessed his rage and focused it into action. He knew that if he wanted to dismantle the fragile structure of Lydia and Derek's new relationship, he had to obliterate any semblance of support they clung to. He unleashed a full-scale assault, methodically unraveling their lives. Beginning with a comprehensive investigation into their finances, he pored over statements, payments, and mutual debts, exposing the extraneous financial misconduct Lydia had engaged in during her affair. With every transaction he uncovered, fury coursed through him. She had used their joint funds to support her new romance luxuriously, and now that betrayal would cost her dearly. It wasn't long before he engaged a powerful divorce attorney, determined to claim everything he was entitled to, and more. Each document filed represented a deliberate maneuver to tighten the noose around Lydia's neck, leaving her gasping for air while he soared. He locked down their shared bank accounts, stalling any access she had to funds, rendering her vulnerable and isolated. "I can't believe you're doing this," Lydia cried during their first mediation session. "You're destroying everything we built together." Her voice, now a mix of desperation and disdain, fell on deaf ears. Graham sat across the table, unwavering, fueled by a sense of resolve that surged with the power of his emotions. "Perhaps you should have thought about that before betraying our vows," he stated flatly, devoid of sympathy. "You betrayed not just me, but our children, our family. You'll live with these consequences." Her attempts at guilt-tripping him through ancient shared memories fell flat, and every word stung like a physical blow. The face of the man who once trusted his wife now transformed into a titan of retribution, extracting every ounce of betrayal and refusing to rest until he had squeezed every possible outcome from this turmoil. With each hearing, Graham meticulously unveiled evidence of Lydia's negligence, revealing the debts accrued from her world of lies. The once familiar faces across the table, mutual friends and acquaintances, became enigmatic figures who expressed disappointment and disdain. It was clear to Graham that he had a support system ready to rally behind him, energized by his resolute stance. As he banked on the societal repercussions Lydia would face, he also hacked into every corner of her life. He contacted friends she had attempted to confide in during their rift, revealing her misdeeds and how they connected her to Derek's dismal attempts to seek solace in a romantic affair. Their small community soon murmured with whispers of deceit, reinforcing the notion that betrayal would not be tolerated. Weeks went by like creeping shadows, and while Graham's public standing transformed into that of a hero, the man who stood up against betrayal, Lydia's reputation dwindled into obscurity. Derek, left without the glimmer of riches he had aimed to attain through their bond, faced utter rejection from mutual friends who once praised his character. While Graham reveled in the justice served, his own transformation into a cold, calculated adversary began to seep into his very soul. The emotional joy of revenge at reaching the summit of his personal campaign dulled any pang of regret for the eventual downfall of the woman who had once loved him fiercely. One unspring evening, as spring arrived with the faintest of breezes, Graham marched into the courtroom feeling invincible. The judge presiding over their divorce recognized the gravity of the situation, and in that moment, the finality of decisions loomed large. He understood that he had come to obliterate not just a marriage, but the ideals of loyalty and love tangled in transgression. With the documents laid bare, he felt an exhilarating energy surge through him, his spirit and resolve reinforcing the morals on which he had built his life. The judge pronounced the divorce with force, awarding Graham joint custody of their children and demanding Lydia pay a hefty compensation that included the full extent of her illicit spending. Yet, it wasn't just financial decisions that would lead to finality, but the unraveling connections Lydia once clung to. The courtroom became a theater of affiliations, and Graham didn't just walk out a victor. He emerged as the controlling force of a narrative where wrongdoing met its deserving fate. As they left the building, Lydia sidled up beside him, desperation etched across her features. "Graham, please, just listen. I'm so sorry, He turned to face her, a bemused expression dancing across his face as he leaned in closely, deliberately, shutting her down with icy precision. "Save your breath, Lydia. Your characters no longer fit in my story. You've already written your own ending with your choices. It's time for me to move on." Lydia could hardly comprehend the temperature of the distance expanding between them. Tears streamed down her face, each drop a desperate yearning for connection. But Graham couldn't muster the compassion anymore. Once trust is gone, it can never be rekindled. "You chose this path," he stated plainly, rigidly locking eyes with the woman who had swindled his heart and trust. Lydia stumbled back, her facade stripped bare, trembling in the realization of her isolation. And with that, Graham dismissed her, sealing his transformation and reinforcing the barriers he had erected around himself. He walked away from the remnants of their shared existence, perfectly aware that some wounds never heal. The final act of closure was sweet. Graham, with immense purpose now pulsating through his veins, was ready to step boldly into a future tinged with independence. As he looked back one last time, he whispered, "You were never worth it." The weight of triumph surged through him. Freedom tasted exquisite, and he was ready to reclaim his life on his own terms, leaving Lydia amidst the ruins of her choices. The system had been tested, and he had emerged not just intact, but amplified, forever acknowledging that justice often blooms in the most unexpected moments. Graham's life post-divorce blossomed like the spring tulips that now peppered his neighborhood. The initial pain and anger had been transformative, a crucible that burned away illusions of love and trust, replacing them with a fierce determination for self-actualization. With the settlement finalized, he felt light, buoyed by newfound independence. He no longer shuffled through life as a victim. Instead, he embraced each day as a warrior, ready to reclaim what was rightfully his. Reconnecting with old friends became a source of comfort and empowerment. Those who rallied around him after the gala had been vital anchors in his tumultuous storm. They understood the gravity of what he had endured. Gatherings transformed into celebrations of resilience. He no longer concealed his truth behind forced smiles and small talk. Conversations buzzed with laughter, warmth, and camaraderie, the kinds of moments that reminded him of a collective strength bound by shared struggles and triumphs. Amidst this reclamation, the children occupied center stage. Graham dedicated himself to building a life steeped in love for them, determined to provide the stability and nurturing that had felt so threadbare during his marriage. Family outings became common, A picnic in the local park one weekend, a movie night snuggled under soft blankets the next. He made it a point to listen, to cherish each tiny moment that carved them into the fabric of his existence. Each smile from his kids was a reminder of why he fought for authenticity. Yet, the aftermath of Lydia's betrayal wasn't just a wound for Graham. It left indelible marks on the children's lives. He ventured into conversations about trust and love, recognizing that transparency served as the foundation for their future. Mornings were often filled with discussions about healthy boundaries, understanding emotions, and ensuring they never fell prey to the illusions he had succumbed to. He wanted them to grow into champions of integrity, prepared to face their world without the shadow of betrayal looming over them. Not all battles were remedied with simplicity. Some frayed threads of confusion and anger still lingered in the kids' minds. After one particularly difficult school week, his daughter Ella approached him, small hands fidgeting with the hem of her dress. "Dad, why did Mom do that?" Her innocent heart broke his own, exposing the wound yet again. He knelt to her level, gathering the strength to respond. "Sometimes people make choices that hurt others, Ella. But we can learn from those choices. We have to decide to be better." His voice softened. He wanted her to grasp the essence of compassion without losing sight of accountability. As her glossy eyes met his steady gaze, they found a mutual understanding, a thread binding them closer together. Days turned into months, and Graham's focus on personal growth became clearer. He began exercising regularly, finding solace in the rhythm of running through the trees that framed his city. It was an outlet that reinvigorated his spirit, while becoming an avenue for his thoughts. With the relentless pounding of his feet against the pavement, the chaos of his previous life melded into a distant memory, replaced by an unyielding drive for self-betterment. In those moments, Graham absorbed clarity. The release pushed him to redefine his life purpose. He enrolled in courses. Professional development sprouted in the fields he had once overlooked. Financial literacy, negotiation, even creative writing. The thirst for knowledge became his balm, a new escape from the shadows that had once threatened to consume him. Each class was a breakthrough, altering the narrative he had remained tethered to for too long. As families and couples coexisted blissfully in his neighborhood, Graham felt a burgeoning desire for reclaiming love. He hesitated at first, reluctant to resurface emotionally. Yet every friendship he nurtured hinted at pathways back toward intimacy. Slowly, he found himself drawn into a local community group about healthy relationships. It encompassed individuals searching for connection while cultivating the skills necessary to sustain it. During one of the community meetings, he encountered Rachel, a single mother with an infectious laugh that drew him in amidst discussions on emotional resilience. Their conversations opened doors to vulnerability, sharing stories of their previous loves, each scar bearing testament to hard-earned lessons. Despite the walls that had once felt insurmountable, he found himself easing into her companionship, allowing trust to seep in slowly, like the morning sun breaking over a tumultuous horizon. One Saturday, Graham encouraged Ella and his younger son, Max, to join him for an outdoor movie night, an event hosted in the community park. Having convinced Rachel that their kids would hit it off, he welcomed her to join. As they settled among blankets and popcorn, laughter echoed around them, a tapestry of connection woven amidst a flickering screen. Watching his children bond with Rachel's kids, Graham felt a warmth envelop him, a burgeoning hope sewn into the fabric of their new lives. That evening was filled with laughter, enveloped in a cocoon of community support. A new family entirely of their making, but ghostly memories lingered. When Lydia began re-entering the sphere of his life, a new chaos introduced itself quietly from stage left. It started with an email, one that bore the pain of humiliation and desperation. Lydia reached out to him under the pretense of wanting to discuss the children, yet every word screamed of regret and a wish for reconciliation. She'd started attending support meetings, even began counseling, but Graham had long since accepted that their time was finite. In reply, Graham crafted a carefully composed email, his fingers grazing the keyboard with purpose. "You shattered our trust beyond repair. I won't allow your attempts to regain entry into my life, or our children's lives, to be successful." Each sentence was a deliberate step in solidifying a boundary he had struggled to erect. He sensed her pain floated through the ether of that email, yet he remained unmoved. The first step towards forgiveness was entirely hers, and he would not sacrifice his integrity to soothe her guilty conscience. Weeks later, during a community event focused on family well-being, Graham faced a turning point, confronting Lydia in person. Amidst balloons and laughter, the air was thick with memories he had strived so hard to displace. Although she wore an army of bravery, the tension in her voice betrayed her vulnerability. When she pleaded to talk privately, he couldn't help but feel both drawn in and repulsed. "Graham, she hesitated, the weight of her choices nearing suffocation. So he stepped forward, bringing a hand to her shoulder firmly yet with effort to acknowledge the pain in her eyes. "Lydia, stop! There's nothing to discuss. I've built a new life, and it doesn't include betrayal." Her expression shifted visibly, reflecting a heavy heart wrestling with guilt. Graham admired her fight, the battle for accountability, yet it only solidified the wall between them. He wouldn't let past grievances dictate his present. "Why can't we just start over?" she ventured, her voice quaking in uncertainty. "Because trust can't be reborn from ashes. We can co-parent, but I refuse to revive our relationship," he said, maintaining his composure, the chill in his voice cutting through the tension. "Focus on becoming a better person for yourself and for our children." It was clear he had no place for softness. Leaving her standing amidst the chaos of families and laughter, Graham walked away knowing that the remnants of their past were now locked behind him, sealed securely. Behind every step was clarity, punctuated by the knowledge that some choices sealed destinies. As the summer light faded into autumn hues, Graham discovered the truest form of freedom. He had evolved into a man ready to embrace the beauty in relationships, crafted anew and tinged with authenticity earned through resilience. No longer haunted by the remnants of betrayal, he was poised to embrace every feeling that had just grazed the surface of his heart. In time, he and Rachel blossomed, their children intertwined effortlessly, forming a tapestry of genuine connection and laughter. More importantly, Graham learned love wasn't a destination to be reached, but a journey to be experienced. Sharing life with someone became a shared build. They cultivated trust not just by blending families, but by weaving their separate journeys into a singular, flourishing existence. In the heart of this evolution, Graham discovered sight beyond tumult, painting love as a canvas of vulnerability, not seen as weakness, but strength. In finally understanding the complexities of a relationship, he often mused, "Life never promises simplicity, but grace finds its way through love and resilience." Freedom beckoned on the horizon, a reality forged by strength, unwavering resolve, and unwavering moral integrity. And he knew, despite the scars of betrayal, he would emerge as the person he was always destined to be. As winter's chill began to blanket the town, Graham settled into a rhythm of life that, while unfamiliar, felt profoundly liberating. Nights no longer echoed with lonely thoughts. Instead, they were often filled with the laughter of children and the comforting warmth of shared meals. He had built a sanctuary, a home, where love wasn't defined by past traumas, but was infused with hope and possibility. Rachel and he explored the depths of their bond, nurturing it with communication, honesty, and a mutual understanding of the challenges they both faced as individuals and as parents. They talked late into the night, sharing dreams of the future and fears from the past, weaving their experiences into plans with ease. It was refreshing to engage with someone who not only understood his scars, but also respected the boundaries he had erected. One frosty Thursday evening, the phone rang, drawing Graham reluctantly from the comfortable cocoon he had created with Rachel. He looked down to find Lydia's name lighting up the screen. A wave of frustration rolled over him. After their last confrontation, he had hoped she would understand his boundaries. Steeling himself, he answered, his voice neutral yet firm. "Lydia." "Graham, I need to talk." Her tone was flustered, not the calm and collected demeanor he had faced before. "What about?" His patience thinned with every word, as he dreaded where this could lead. "It's about the kids." "There's something Let's keep this focused on them," he interrupted, giving her no leverage to rehash her past mistakes, focusing solely on the children's needs. "If it doesn't involve their well-being, I have no interest in discussing it with you." Graham's refusal only stoked the embers of Lydia's desperation. "I've been working on myself, really working hard. I think it's time for them to understand that I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." There it was, the slight wedge of remorse, the hint of hope for change. "Trying isn't enough, Lydia. You've hurt them, and you've hurt me. If they need to understand, that needs to happen in a healthy environment where they feel safe." He could almost feel her internal struggle from across the line, the weight of the truth he had enforced. "Do you think I'm a bad mother?" she asked, her voice small. The question hung heavily in the air. "Bad mothers don't exist. Just people who make bad choices. You have to own yours." Focus on that. The conviction in his words was unwavering, a shield against her attempts to pivot the conversation. He wouldn't fall into the trap of emotional re-engagement, and he felt steadier than ever in his resolve. They ended the call without resolution, but Graham felt a sense of closure. For the first time, he realized he hadn't been trapped in temptation. He had taken control of his narrative, no longer letting Lydia dictate any aspect of his life. It felt liberating. As Christmas approached, Graham's home became a kaleidoscope of laughter and joy. He and Rachel planned together for a memorable celebration. They adorned their tree with ornaments, collected over the years, shared sweet treats, and inserted love into the little moments that filled their days. Graham found himself in awe of how seamlessly she fit into the family dynamics. On Christmas Eve, the children were buzzing with excitement, their anticipation electrifying the atmosphere. Graham and Rachel decided to bake cookies for Santa, an endeavor intended to be both festive and fun. Flower dust danced in the air as they laughed, while decorating cookies into all shapes, creating a beautiful mess that embodied the spirit of the season. That night, as they settled down for Christmas movies, Graham felt warmth in his heart and home. The world outside felt quiet as snowflakes gently fell, transforming the landscape into a serene wonderland. As the children nestled beside him, drowsy from a day filled with laughter, Graham couldn't help but take a moment to reflect. What had begun as a journey drowned in betrayal had transformed into a beautiful story of resilience and recovery. He had taken the shards of his past, pieced them together, and woven a new life filled with meaning and love. Later that night, as the clock struck midnight, he pulled Rachel aside, away from the sleeping children. Their breaths mingled in the air, heavy with dreams and hopes. "I wanted to thank you," he said, gazing into her eyes. "You've brought so much light into our lives, into my life. I never thought I'd find someone like you after everything." She smiled, warmth radiating from her as she took his hands. "Graham, I walked through my own shadows too. I see you. I appreciate the strength you've shown. And I'm grateful to be here, sharing this chance to rebuild, to create something beautiful together." On Christmas morning, Josh and Ella woke to a living room adorned with presents, each item reflecting the joy of new beginnings. Shouts of delight erupted as they gleefully tore into each package. Laughter reverberated, echoing from room to room, filling Graham's heart with a gratitude he thought inaccessible not long ago. Yet the joy was tinged with caution. Throughout the celebrations, Graham harbored the knowledge that Lydia was still on the periphery of their lives. Regaining ground with the kids would take time, effort, and consistency. a task he would oversee. Each day would come with its set of challenges, but he was adamant about maintaining a balance between allowing Lydia opportunities for growth while safeguarding their emotional well-being. As the year wrapped up with those precious newfound memories, he resolved to shift the focus toward family and community, setting plans in motion for regular activities, kicking off with a family ski trip as winter's chilly breath lingered. In preparation for the trip, Graham made arrangements for Ella and Max, ensuring that they were equipped for every possible winter hiccup. The spirit of enthusiasm permeated their home. The kids excitedly piled their bags, hardly able to contain their anticipation. They would spend days navigating the slopes, infusing joy and togetherness into every moment. Days later, when the trip unfolded, Graham stood atop a snowy slope, snow-capped peaks stretching far beyond the horizon. He watched as the children, eager to conquer the next hill, rolled and tumbled, bursting with laughter. Something sparked in Graham's heart. Clarity washed over him. He understood now the magnificent expanse of possibilities laid ahead, each promising more than he ever thought life could offer him again. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, casting a golden hue over the landscape, a fire crackled in their ski lodge, giving life to shadows on the walls around them. Among the warmth, Graham felt a renewed sense of purpose. The work he had done to reclaim his life had been worth every tear. Suddenly, amidst their blissful family bond, Graham's phone buzzed with a text message. A familiar name sprang to life on the screen. It was Lydia, asking to meet about something important. Nothing more than a shadow lurking at the door of the past he had worked so hard to leave behind. For a heartbeat, uncertainty flickered as he contemplated the potential repercussions of engaging with Lydia again. But then he remembered the unyielding strength he had built, the love he nurtured, and the resilience he cultivated were more than enough to weather anything. As he watched his children embrace the beauty of each fleeting moment, he realized he didn't fear the past as he once did. Fatherhood is an endless journey of learning, he murmured softly to Rachel, who looked up from where they shared the couch. She smiled knowingly, understanding the depth of his reflection. Let's face it together, she replied, sealing their solidarity against whatever tides might come their way. Graham inhaled deeply, holding the warmth of family, the joyous embrace of love, trust, and compassion, an undeniable force binding them as one. For him, there was no longer any going back. Every new chapter promised to be woven from resilience, and that legacy would define not just his life, but the lives of his children as well. Whatever lay ahead, he felt an unwavering assurance. They would navigate it as a family, stronger than ever. Days turned into weeks, and as the new year unfurled, Graham settled into a flourishing routine that felt increasingly like a second chance at life. The ski trip had been a resounding success, leaving traces of snowflakes and laughter woven into their shared memories. It was a charming realization that resilience had not only rebuilt his spirit, but also transformed his relationship with his children and Rachel. With each new day, he found creative ways to weave joy into their lives. Weekend adventures to local parks became a cherished tradition. Family game nights filled the house with excitement and cheers, and he often marveled at how their lives had bloomed into a vibrant tapestry of moments that he never thought possible again. Yet, as Graham reveled in this newfound happiness, Lydia lingered on the fringes of his thoughts. After her last message, he had meticulously processed his reactions, reminding himself that maintaining boundaries was paramount. Even as he crafted a life brimming with love, a nagging sense of obligation to address her correspondence gnawed at him. He wanted to approach this with clarity, ensuring that any communication between them remained focused. Not a rehashing of the past, but a conversation centered on co-parenting. One evening, as they settled into another game night, a ping interrupted the laughter. His phone chimed again with a message from Lydia. This time, she wrote about wanting to discuss the kids over coffee. Graham took a deep breath. The decision to meet her still loomed, clouded by the shadows of betrayal and uncertainty. But he knew that facing this need was essential. "Hey, I need to meet Lydia to discuss the kids," he said to Rachel later that night. He could hear the slight pause in her breath, the hesitation creeping into the room, while the children continued their game in the background. She looked thoughtful for a moment before nodding. "If you think it's important for the kids, then you should go." Her voice was steady, grounded in the understanding that boundaries were important, yet it still felt like they were walking a tightrope of vulnerability. "I'll keep it focused just on them," Graham promised, appreciative of her unwavering support. Deep down, he felt a twinge of fear, an emotion that crept into his mind, despite the confidence he had built. The fear of falling back into old patterns or being swayed by Lydia's pleas flickered like a distant candle, but he brushed it aside. He could handle this. That coming Saturday, he found himself seated in a cozy coffee shop downtown, where the scent of roasted beans mingled with the quiet hum of conversation. He had arrived early, scanning the room while wrestling with both anticipation and anxiety. He felt the tension knotting in his stomach, a remnant of his earlier life with Lydia, but he steeled himself, conscious of the children waiting behind this decision. Lydia walked in shortly thereafter, her demeanor a stark contrast to the vibrant presence he had once known. Clad in a more understated outfit, she wore an expression that blended apprehension with determination. The weight of her choices appeared etched into her features, images of regret dancing in her eyes as she slid into the chair across from him. "Graham, thank you for meeting me," she began, voice steady but laced with an underlying tremor. There was no preamble, just a sincerity that nearly caught him off guard. "Let's keep this centered on the kids," he replied, searching her face for signs of the woman he once trusted, only to see the toll life had taken on her instead. "I understand. I wanted to tell you that I've been going to therapy," she continued, her eyes seeking validation. "I'm working on myself, learning to understand my mistakes. I know it's not enough to change what's happened, but I want to be a better mother." Graham nodded, bracing himself for the push towards emotional vulnerability that he knew had the potential to scour the wounds he had been trying to close. "That's a start," he responded carefully, "but your actions need to reflect those words. The kids can't be left in the dark while you figure this out." A flicker of guilt crossed her face. "I know. I realize that now. I wanted to ask if we could perhaps arrange some family meetings. Simple, casual, just to keep the lines of communication open." His brow furrowed at her suggestion. Encouraging openness was crucial, but she was suggesting more than just check-ins. She was seeking pathways that could entangle them once again. "Lydia, communication is necessary, but there are protocols to ensure that any shared time remains focused on the kids. We cannot slip into how things used to be." Her shoulders slumped slightly, understanding the boundaries he was prescribing. "I get it," she said softly. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. This is a process, and I want to be a part of their lives in a constructive way. I want to be better for them." Graham processed her sincerity, weighing it against the heavy reality of their history. Growth takes time, and it requires proof. His voice remained calm but firm. "I'll keep an eye on your actions moving forward. But for the time being, let's create a structured plan that prioritizes the kids' emotional needs." Their dialogue stretched on, intertwining moments of honesty with hesitations that arose like ripples in water. They discussed timelines, possibilities of shared outings, and what a healthy involvement could look like with appropriate boundaries. As they spoke, Graham caught glimpses of her willingness to engage, to carve a path toward redemption. Yet his cautious heart, still nurturing wounds from betrayal, remained alert. For now, this was merely a beginning, an olive branch extended in hope. Yet trust would take an immense amount of time, no matter how beautifully they crafted their discussions into plans. When their meeting concluded, Graham stood a little taller. He had navigated the turbulent waters and emerged with clarity. The layers of complexity woven into their past would not vanish overnight. Instead, he embraced the new tempo they now found themselves in. As he walked back to his car, the gravity of responsibility hung heavily on his shoulders. Yet he felt lighter. This wasn't about bearing old scars. It was about keeping them present, acknowledging them while forging forward. At home, as his kids tumbled over one another with giggles in the background, he recounted his conversation with Lydia to Rachel. "We've agreed to open lines of communication about the kids, but I made it clear that trust isn't just given. It's earned." Rachel nodded, her expression a blend of admiration and resolve. "You handled that well. You have the strength to keep your boundaries while being there for your kids. I believe in you." That evening, Graham felt the embers of hope fueling his future. Over the weeks and months that followed, collaborative gatherings with Lydia slowly formed, always with the kids at the center of focus. They were carefully structured, infused with intentionality and a fresh start that held the opportunity for growth. In the downtown park, where children played and laughter rang in the air, their dynamics began to shift. Lydia nurturing her presence over time, while Graham focused on ensuring stability. As joints of trust began to heal, he found their evolving relationship less about rekindling old flames and more about creating a safe harbor for their children. One evening, as the shadows began to stretch with the dying daylight, Graham caught a glimpse of both Ella and Max. As Lydia playfully tossed a frisbee into the air, a warming glow surrounded them as laughter lifted high, and he took comfort in watching them blossom, recognizing that every stride they took together paved the way for the transformations he had long hoped for. In that tranquil moment, Graham realized that healing wasn't just a distant goal. It was embodied in the happiness that bloomed around him. He no longer needed to dwell on the past. Instead, he focused on building a legacy that would illuminate the pathways forward for his children, stitching warmth from once frayed fabric into vibrant new patterns. Graham's life had become a story sown with resilience, one vibrant with lessons learned and love shared. It would require ongoing effort, but with the support of Rachel and a framework for co-parenting that prioritized healing, he knew they could all find joy in their new lives. He felt ready, a father, a partner, and an individual prepared to face the future with renewed strength, buoyed by hope. As spring breathed new life into the neighborhood, Graham found himself more at ease in his new reality than ever before. The thaw of winter brought flowers, blooming in vibrant colors, mirroring the rebirth of his spirit and the warmth shared among his family. Co-parenting with Lydia had settled into a routine that, while fraught with complexity, bore fruit of cooperation and growth. She attended the kids' soccer games and school plays, a stark contrast from the distance they had maintained during the worst of their separation. With each positive interaction, Graham began to witness Lydia's efforts materialize into tangible results. He observed her determination to communicate better and engage with the children without slipping into old habits. During their shared outings, Lydia developed a more aware and caring presence, and Graham felt a flicker of gratitude amidst his cautious heart. One Saturday afternoon, they organized a picnic at the park. The skies were a brilliant blue, dotted with clouds that drifted lazily across the horizon. Children's laughter echoed in the air as they celebrated together, a fragrant spread of sandwiches, fruit, and homemade cookies laid out across the blanket. Graham watched as Ella and Max dashed toward Lydia, catching a butterfly that had momentarily landed nearby. Their joyful squeals resonated through him as they marveled at the delicate creature, and for a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to reminisce about the moments that had once filled their lives with happiness. Despite their rocky past, the present radiated with possibilities. He felt hopeful that their shared journey could mend more than just broken lines. Perhaps they could weave a new tapestry of connection. Over time, Graham's relationship with Rachel deepened as well. Their children were thriving together, with regular get-togethers fostering memories that often sparked joy. He found himself drawn to Rachel's unwavering support. She had come to embody a sisterhood, a partner filled with compassion that reminded him of the beauty and fresh starts. They shared laughter, lighthearted teasing, and a commitment to intertwining their worlds lovingly. One evening, Rachel invited him to join her for dinner with her own family. The idea swirled with warmth as she prepared a cozy meal. He was excited yet apprehensive, wanting to make a good impression while also shielding the vulnerability that could lie beneath the surface. "Just be yourself. They'll love you," Rachel said, clasping his hand with a comforting squeeze as they strode toward her parents' home. Graham stepped over the threshold and felt a welcoming atmosphere envelop him. Outside, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the gathering. Rachel's family greeted him with open arms, and he soon found himself sinking into engaging conversations that flowed easily. Laughter punctuated the air as they exchanged stories, traded jokes, and savored the dishes that Rachel had expertly prepared. Throughout the evening, Graham felt more connected to Rachel, watching as her parents admired her positivity and the way she effortlessly engaged them. He realized how genuine her love for him had always been, regardless of the darkness clouding his past. As he left that night, warmed by the affection they had shared, Graham appreciated how far he had come. The vestiges of Lydia's betrayal began to feel lighter, receding like shadows melting away under the sun's embrace. But despite the newfound clarity, his internal compass reminded him that remnants of unresolved emotions still needed tending. In this journey of rekindling relationships, Graham couldn't ignore the emotional truth nestled within. Several weeks later, Lydia approached him after the kids' soccer practice, her expression revealing an undeniable urgency. "Can we talk? I know we're making progress, but there's something I need to discuss with you," she said, her tone imbued with genuine intent. He nodded, trying to remain neutral while emotions simmered beneath the surface. They found a quiet bench away from the sidelines, where the other parents lingered, distractions fading into the background. "I've been reflecting on my mistakes a lot. After days in therapy, I realized that I have to face the consequences of my actions. I understand you're moving on with Rachel, and I can see how happy the kids are around her. But can we talk about how I fit in this picture?" Her vulnerability surprised him. "Lydia, you have to know that our lives have moved in different directions. Those paths will coexist for the sake of the kids, but the past is a place I can't revisit. I'm happy with Rachel and the life we're building together." She looked down for a moment, processing his words. He sensed the pain that accompanied her admission, the weight of regret pressing heavily upon her heart. "I get that," she said quietly. "But I need you to know that I want to maintain a healthy relationship. Not just co-parenting, but a friendship, if possible. I'm ready to put in the effort and rebuild something meaningful for the kids." Graham's mind raced. He had never considered friendship as an option, but as he gazed into her eyes, the vulnerable honesty reflected there, he realized perhaps the prospect wasn't as far-fetched as he had initially believed. "If you're committed to being present for them and continuing your growth, then I'll support that. Friendship can develop over time, but understand that it will take effort from both ends," he affirmed. She nodded, an understanding passing between them like a gentle breeze, spreading warm reconciliation. "I'll show you, I promise," Lydia replied. "It's not going to be easy, but I want our kids to have a life where they can thrive without any of this history overshadowing them." With that, they agreed to build this newfound relationship, tentative yet filled with promise. Graham understood the work required but felt a glimmer of hope taking root. Perhaps their old pain could serve as a scaffold upon which they could construct new memories, stronger and built on respect. As weekend outings continued seamlessly, the children began inviting each other to share experiences of their pasts, their free-spirited laughter peppering the air with undeniable joy. Slowly, Lydia blended into this vibrant world, creating a space where they could all lift each other up. One afternoon, as the sun sparkled through the branches of the trees overhead, Graham and Rachel decided to host a larger family gathering. They invited Lydia, her mother, and a few of Rachel's friends, all woven into the tapestry of a community that had learned to support one another through thick and thin. As families rejoiced in the laughter ringing around the picnic table, Lydia joined the kids in outdoor games. Graham caught glimpses of her genuinely engaging in their joy. He recognized the significant shift, marveling at how time, coupled with healing, could foster unexpected bonds. The day gave birth to moments where they reveled in their unity, an amalgamation of hearty laughter that ever so slightly dulled the echoes of the past. Graham embraced the beauty that lay ahead, the warmth of connection growing stronger between all of them, like sunlight filtering gently through autumn leaves. In that snapshot, woven within moments of joy and laughter, Graham reveled in the reality that life had the power to change. It invigorated the notion that forward motion turned the burdens of the past into milestones of growth. With each passing day, his relationships transitioned into avenues for healing, love, and understanding, showcasing a network that formed around resilience. Graham fostered that hope as he traversed the landscape of life, knowing that each step laid the foundation for the future, a future infused with light, one that promised growth, love, and renewal. Ultimately, he recognized that people were not defined by their missteps, but rather by their willingness to rise from them. And he was prepared to see what profound beauty could emerge when shadows were cast aside in favor of the promise of a new dawn. As spring melted into summer, Graham's life resonated with a harmony he had once thought unattainable. The children thrived amidst the newfound stability and joy, and he felt as if they were collectively crafting a narrative steeped in resilience. The once frayed connections began threading together in unexpected ways, forming bonds that promised warmth and understanding. The day-to-day rhythms danced with laughter, playdates, and shared meals that were rich with conversation. Lydia's involvement flourished. She became an integral part of their family dynamics as they navigated co-parenting with newfound respect. As summer break approached, they agreed to merge their families for a week-long camping trip, a chance to deepen their connections while creating lasting memories in the great outdoors. Picking up supplies at the local outdoor store felt invigorating, a shared mission between the three parents. Graham, Lydia, and Rachel congregated to select essentials for the journey. The scene contrasted starkly with the harshness of their past. There was no lingering tension or awkwardness. Instead, it was filled with light banter and camaraderie, an acknowledgement that all was not perfect, but it was moving forward towards something beautiful. At checkout, Lydia held up a packet of marshmallows and grinned. "You can't go camping without these. We need them for s'mores." "Absolutely. Just remember, we have to limit the sugar intake." Graham shot back, eyebrow raised. The kids giggled, caught in the exuberance of their parents' banter. Once they were packed and ready, the anticipation poured forth with the promise of adventure. The drive to the campsite felt like a blend of excitement and nerves, not only for the children, but for the adults, too. Armed with a map, an expertly planned itinerary, and each other's company, they made their way through breathtaking scenery, a stark contrast to the concrete jungles of their daily lives. Upon arriving, the fragrant scent of pine trees enveloped them like an old friend, inviting them to immerse themselves in nature. The campgrounds buzzed with families, laughter mixing with the soft rustling of leaves as the sun painted the sky in vibrant orange and purple hues. Setting up tents became a team effort, with everyone diving into the tasks with enthusiasm. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they gathered around a crackling fire. Gore and stories spilled forth fluidly, with each parent sharing funny anecdotes from their childhood camping trips. Graham felt a warmth radiating within, the soft glow of the fire illuminating not just the physical space, but the emotional expanses of healing he was witnessing with each passing moment. "Anyone ready for some s'mores?" Graham asked, delighting in the chorus of cheers that followed. As laughter danced around the fire, each s'more made became a ritual of indulgence. Graham marveled at how children's giggles and marshmallow gooiness could remind adults that life's simplest pleasures often imbue the deepest joy. "I'll tell you a secret," Lydia leaned in, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. "I can make the most incredible s'more. You have to toast the marshmallow until it's perfectly golden, not burnt." As she demonstrated with the kids watching closely, her excitement permeated the air, a testament to how far they had come. Graham felt a warmth blossom inside him, not out of nostalgia for their past, but a newfound appreciation for the present, for the fact that they could share laughter without pretenses. That night, as they nestled in their tents under a canopy of stars, Graham felt a powerful sense of belonging wrap around him. He closed his eyes, taking a moment to breathe it all in, the fragile yet beautiful connections forming not only between him and his children, but also among all the adults gathered together. The journey that had begun in pain had poured forth into something unexpectedly magnificent. The days rolled on, filled with hiking adventures, swimming in nearby lakes, and storytelling sessions wrapped snugly by the campfire. One afternoon, they decided to take a hike to a scenic overlook. The view sent ripples of awe through the group, with lush valleys and distant mountains kissing the horizon under an endless blue sky. "Wow, look at that!" Ella exclaimed, eyes wide as she pointed into the distance. The kids dashed forward, excitement bubbling over. As laughter floated through the air, Graham felt an emotional weight lift. The sight before him, complemented by the joy of those he cared for, marked a pinnacle of newfound peace. Underneath the grandeur of nature, Lydia approached Graham. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" she asked, her tone serious, yet without any heaviness. "Sure," he replied, moving to a quieter spot, the murmurs of happiness cascading in the background. "I wanted to say thank you for this trip. It's reminded me of the good we can build together, despite everything that's happened. The kids are thriving, and seeing them this happy makes me feel like I'm finally doing something right." Her gaze was earnest, and he could see genuine gratitude reflected in her eyes. "This is a journey for all of us, Lydia. I appreciate that you're making an effort. You're showing up in ways that matter," he acknowledged, his voice steady but warm. "It's about creating meaningful moments for them," she continued. "They deserve to feel love and joy, regardless of our past. And I want to ensure they know they're supported equally from both sides." Graham nodded, sensing that this acknowledgement was vital to their shared path. It's important for them to feel that sense of community, to understand that we're all committed to their happiness, even if our paths diverged. As their conversation woven through sincerity, Graham understood that Lydia's journey toward redemption wasn't solely for her sake, but intrinsically tied to them all. In that moment of connection, he felt a glimmer of hope grow steadier. He could envision a future where co-parenting transformed into an alliance of sorts, dissolving the boundaries that once felt impenetrable. The rest of the camping trip unfolded beautifully, with memories cemented solidly in laughter, shared meals, and campfire songs. When it was time to head back, Graham took a moment to reflect. This was the heartbeat of life, a blend of laughter unfurling amid their shared struggles, evolving connections, and burgeoning transformation. As they packed up, leaving the serene beauty behind felt bittersweet. But it wasn't just the premise of returning home that lingered. It was the realization that they had built this extraordinary narrative together, and together they would continue to thrive, hand in hand, traversing the paths that lay ahead. On the drive home, the air was filled with heady chatter about future outings, adventures, and s'more masterpieces that would be crafted again. Graham felt anchored in hope, recognizing that they were transforming into more than just individuals, trapped in an entangled past. They were emerging as a dynamic family capable of creating a future filled with love and support. In his heart, Graham understood the healing didn't rest entirely in erasing the past. Instead, it thrived on embracing the journey, learning that every relationship, tainted or healed, could teach powerful lessons about love, forgiveness, and growth. And as they drove, laughter blaring with delight, he knew the path forward promised even more beautiful moments lying just ahead, waiting for them to discover. As summer settled in fully, the world around Graham began to flourish as vividly as his own life. The trip had fundamentally altered not only how he viewed Lydia, but how he understood the intricate tapestry of their family's dynamics. He realized that healing took time, raw honesty, and willing hearts to mend what was once broken. The bond they developed over those camping days was an invitation to embrace hope, a path paved toward co-parenting grounded in mutual respect. Back home, the bustle of daily life resumed. The kids transitioned into their summer routines, filled with neighborhood playdates and weekend outings. Yet, something had shifted. There was a sense of connection that hadn't been present before. Graham basked in the knowledge that Lydia was actively participating in their children's lives. The sincerity of her efforts felt refreshingly genuine, and with each passing week, their interactions highlighted steady progress. And Graham began to trust that this renewed commitment extended beyond mere appearances. As the sun beat down on the sweltering afternoons, Graham kept his schedule filled with family activities. Rachel often joined their outings, bringing additional layers of joy to every shared experience. One weekend at a local summer festival, they filled the air with excitement over carnival games, ice cream, and the warm embrace of summer. "Can we try that game over there?" Max shouted, pointing to a colorful booth where plush toys dangled temptingly from above. "Absolutely. Let's see if we can win something," Graham replied, without missing a beat. He felt himself carried away by the infectious energy bubbling around them as they darted toward the game. With laughter erupting and children scrambling, the afternoon settled into sweet joy. Rachel and Graham partnered on the games, with Lydia cheering them on as she manned the kids' belongings. With every toss and turn, they racked up points, moments transformed into memories that filled the air with laughter. As they left the festival, Graham felt a surge of contentment. The scene before him, a patchwork of lively colors and smiling faces, reflected how far they had all come. Life flowed effortlessly, and the tension from the past seemed like a distant memory, all thanks to this new coexistence they were cultivating together. But soon enough, darkness threatened to overshadow the brightness they had earned. A sudden call from Lydia a week later sent a tremor through the stability he had cherished. She wanted to discuss something important, and he sensed hesitation laced within her voice. "Can we meet up tomorrow?" When he arrived at the coffee shop, he found her already there, her expression weighed down by something unspoken. She sat with a cup of coffee in hand, nervously stirring it as he approached. "Hi, Graham," she began, looking up with a tentative smile that quickly faded. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked gently, his instincts sharpening as he braced for whatever news might come. "It's about my job," she said, suddenly looking smaller. "I've been offered a promotion that requires a lot of travel. It's a significant opportunity for me, but..." Graham's heart dropped. He could see the uncertainty twisting in her gaze as she struggled to share what was weighing on her. "But what?" he prompted gently. "I didn't expect it to happen so soon, and I'm scared of what this might mean for the kids. I want to be there for them, but the demands of this job make it difficult." Her eyes glistened with a mix of fear and vulnerability. "I understand that this is an important chance for you, but what are you suggesting? Are you planning to take it?" he asked, feeling a dissonance crowding at the edges of his thoughts. "Yes, but I need to talk about how we can ensure the kids are supported during this time. I would still be committed to spending quality time with them whenever I'm home." Panic crept through him as he processed her words. The stability they had fought so hard to create felt at risk. "Lydia, I appreciate your ambition, but travel means extended absences. The last thing the kids need right now is instability." "I know that. I'll make sure their schedules are prioritized. And I'll arrange for them to spend time with you and Rachel during the weeks I'm gone," she insisted, her desperation palpable. Graham rubbed the bridge of his nose, torn between wanting to support Lydia's growth and protecting the kids from experiencing another upheaval. "It's not just about rearranging schedules. Kids feel emotional ripples, Lydia. They might experience confusion, resentment, and abandonment. We went through enough already. I would never want to hurt them. Please understand that I want to do this for them and for myself," she urged, her tone pleading. "If we can communicate openly, we can absolutely make this work." Graham weighed her words carefully, torn between trust in her newfound intention and the specter of his past with her. "Let's take this one step at a time. You need to think about whether this promotion truly aligns with your priorities right now. If you decide to accept it, let's draft a plan that ensures the kids still feel secure and loved despite the changes." Lydia nodded, appearing subdued but resolute. "I don't want their needs to go unrecognized. I appreciate you being honest, even with the discomfort this brings." As they concluded their meeting, Graham's heart felt heavy. The path forward was daunting, but he knew they couldn't find resolution without ongoing dialogue. He returned home and shared the situation with Rachel, who listened attentively, compassionately, as he unwrapped the sudden weight resting on his shoulders. That's a significant development. But if Lydia remains committed to building her relationship with the kids, we can approach this in a way that emphasizes stability, Rachel said, her voice steady and reassuring. Stability seems like a fragile illusion right now, Graham replied, exhaling softly. But I'm willing to support her if it means the kids aren't left feeling disconnected. It just feels, complicated. We can do this together, Rachel said, wrapping her arms around him. You've already shown you can build new connections amid difficulty. Just continue to keep those lines of communication open, and you both can navigate this. They agreed to meet again with Lydia to draw up a concrete plan together. Graham recognized that it was a balancing act, requiring them to forge new routines while being mindful of the sensitivities that lurked beneath the surface. The journey thus far had been a testament to finding strength amid storms. They would survive the challenges ahead as well. Days turned into weeks as Graham, Rachel, and Lydia worked collaboratively on the logistics of travel and time spent with the children. Together, they developed a shared calendar that prioritized weekends together, ensuring that every moment would be cherished. The unpredictability of Lydia's travel was hard, but they committed to transparency, understanding that communication remained the anchor that would hold them all steady. As summer wore on, the emotional tumult slowly transformed into a routine, watching as Lydia embraced her career aspirations while working diligently to uphold her responsibilities as a mother. Moments of vulnerability emerged as they navigated the smooth and rocky pathways. Yet through it all, they ensured that their children remained at the center of every decision. In time, with each shared weekend, laughter replaced worries, and Graham felt a burgeoning sense of hope seep through the cracks once again. The fear of Lydia's absence faded, replaced by the assurance that they were committed to a brighter collective future. And just like that, nature's transitions continued alongside theirs. Summer morphed into fall, ushering in a crisp wind, an inviting scent of changing leaves. The world was alive, a unique reminder that every end can also signify a new beginning. As Graham gazed out at the vibrant colors swaying in the breeze, he reflected on how life, like seasons, could turn on its axis, beckoning transformative growth in ways they could barely fathom. With unwavering resolve, Graham recognized that the path ahead would be filled with new challenges, but the journey they had shared thus far proved that resilience and love could illuminate even the darkest corners of uncertainty. Together, they would embrace the changes with courage, drawing from their shared spirit of hope and determination as they crafted a beautiful life ahead, one step at a time. As autumn deepened, Graham and his family settled comfortably into the rhythm of life they had redefined. Each weekend blended seamlessly into the next, infused with moments of joy and laughter that cast away remnants of past pains. Lydia's ongoing commitment to her job meant frequent traveling, but she managed to continue fostering her role in the kids' lives, often surprising them with her thoughtful gestures and presence during family outings. One chilly Saturday evening, Graham organized a cozy bonfire night in their backyard. He invited Rachel and the kids, hoping to create an atmosphere where they could celebrate not only the turn of the season, but also the hard-earned harmony they were cultivating. The flickering firelight illuminated their faces as they gathered around, the warmth of the flames contrasting sharply against the crispness of the autumn air. As the night enveloped them, they roasted marshmallows and shared ghost stories, laughter filling the gaps where hesitations had once existed. Graham felt a deep sense of unity as he watched Lydia toss playful banter with the kids while Rachel smiled warmly at them. Their laughter felt like music, an ode to their shared victories, no matter how small they seemed. Okay, next story. This one is super spooky, Max exclaimed with wide eyes, stoking the flames of excitement. I want the scariest, Ella piped up, straining against her brother's enthusiasm. All right, let me think, Graham began, adopting a dramatic tone that captured the children's attention. He relayed a story about an old haunted cabin in the woods, using exaggerated sound effects to amplify the suspense. As the fire crackled and shadows danced against the night sky, Graham marveled at how much had improved since their tumultuous past. Later that night, as the kids finally began to tire, the conversations flowed into a quieter territory, deepening the connection between them. Graham sensed an underlying bond forming, a lower humming current of understanding and respect that transcended their individual histories. Thank you for putting this all together, Lydia said as the children made their way inside with Rachel, leaving him momentarily with her. It means a lot that we can all come together like this. It hasn't been an easy road, he replied candidly, feeling the weight of their shared history. But I see the effort you're making with the kids. They appreciate having you around, especially with the travel. I know it's a huge balancing act. I'm trying to be present for them, really present. Her voice was genuine, a quiet testimony to the work that lay ahead. I sometimes worry that they might feel my absence too heavily when I'm gone, but I'm committed to ensure that I'm there for them when it counts. I see that, he offered quietly. As long as you maintain that focus and commitment, we can all navigate this together. It's messy, but together is the only way to do it. As autumn continued to spiral toward winter, Lydia's traveling schedule intensified due to ongoing projects at work. However, they had established a robust back-and-forth communication method so that the kids felt supported even when she was away. They used a shared calendar app, marking special moments and setting reminders for their video calls, ensuring that the connection remained strong. One evening, while they were preparing to head out for another soccer game, Graham received a text from Lydia. He opened it, instantly drawn by her vulnerable tone. Hey, can we talk tonight? I think I need your advice about something. Curiosity piqued, Graham felt a slight wave of apprehension wash over him. He hadn't expected anything out of the ordinary, but Lydia's tone hinted at a weighty topic. Sure, let's talk after the game. After the game, where the children had played their hearts out, they settled in for a cozy dinner at home. Graham felt satisfied listening to them share stories about their adventures on the pitch, laughter punctuating his heart as he observed their dynamism. Once the kids were tucked into bed, he turned his attention to the conversation with Lydia that awaited him. They met in the living room, where soft lighting created an inviting atmosphere. Thanks for agreeing to talk, she began, shifting slightly in her seat. Of course. What's on your mind? He asked, gesturing for her to speak freely. I got offered a promotion today. It involves a significant pay increase, but it comes with more responsibility, potentially more travel, she said, her voice a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Well, that sounds promising. But it also means you'd be traveling more often, right? He countered, sitting forward. That could introduce more instability for the kids. What are you thinking? I want to take it, she stated firmly, but her eyes betrayed the mingled worry. Yet I'm terrified of how the kids will react to my absence. I want this opportunity, but I also don't want them to feel abandoned or unsupported. That's valid, he acknowledged thoughtfully. Emotional balance has been tough to navigate already, and adding more travel could disrupt what we've built. Have you considered how to address those concerns with them? I was hoping you could help, she finally admitted, her gaze steady. I want to be transparent, but also reassure them. Maybe we could come up with a plan together to help them process my travel as something positive, like how it lets me be a role model who is successful and follows her career ambitions. The honesty in Lydia's voice resonated deeply with him. It's a great idea, Graham replied, nodding as he spoke. We can encourage them to view it as an opportunity to see how hard work brings rewards. But communication will be key. That was my thought, she agreed, relief washing over her features. I don't want them to feel that they're losing their mother in any way. Not anymore. Over the next few days, they collaborated on creating a strategy together. They compiled clear schedules, planned special activities for when Lydia returned, and prepared for open conversations with the children about her travel. Graham felt optimistic as they carved out this new ground. Communication was working, and with it came the chance for deeper understanding. When the day finally came for Lydia's first trip following their discussions, Graham ensured that the kids were well prepared for the changes. That evening at dinner, he broached the topic. "Hey, remember how we talked about Mom's travels? Well, she's leaving for a few days tomorrow, but it's for an important promotion at work, and she worked really hard for it." Ella's brow furrowed, confusion lining her features. "What about us? Are we going to see her?" "Of course. She'll call every night and tell you about her day," Graham reassured, meeting their eyes individually, gauging their reactions. "And when she's back, we'll celebrate together. Plus, Rachel and I will have some fun plans while she's away." Max nodded, but didn't look convinced. "But what if I miss her? It's really important for Mom to take on this new role. It means she'll be able to provide more for us, and she's excited for what this could mean for our family. And long term, it'll allow her to be there for us in ways we can't even imagine right now." That reassured Max as he processed the idea. Graham smiled softly, knowing they were managing to navigate the tricky terrain together. The night ended in gentle laughter, moments shared that would help ease the transitions. But it was just the beginning. When Lydia called to check in on their first night apart, Graham could hear her excitement through the phone, despite the distance separating them. "How are my kids?" she asked, her voice bright and cheerful. "They're adjusting well." Max was a little apprehensive at first, but "I think we've got a plan," he said, offering more detail as they navigated their conversations. Throughout the subsequent weeks, Graham and Lydia continued to work collaboratively, and despite the challenges her travel posed, they maintained open channels of communication. Video calls transformed into a cherished ritual, moments filled with laughter and shared stories, helping the kids feel grounded even while their routines shifted. Eventually, the setbacks of tender adjustments gave way to a rhythm that felt less daunting. Lydia's commitment to being present, both in person and virtually, shone bright as it fostered emotional security across the board. Whenever she returned from her trips, they established intentional family time to reconnect in meaningful ways, time that emphasized their collective progress. As the months rolled on, Graham felt a sense of pride and accomplishment, not just for himself, but for everyone involved. The new reality was both complex and rewarding. By the time the holiday season approached, spaces in their hearts felt warmer than ever. Traditions began to bubble back up, cake decorating in December, choosing a Christmas tree, and the joy of giving gifts all became trails of light woven into the fabric of their family stories. Each festive moment reaffirmed Graham's belief that they could overcome any challenge as a unit. And when Christmas Eve arrived, his living room filled with decorations, laughter, and the sweet aroma of cookies. The chaos of the holiday season was far from overwhelming. It became a testament to the strength of love binding them together. In that whirlwind of activity, he saw how Lydia thrived in their shared environment, her laughter ringing as she joined in the festivities. He took a moment to step back, observing the scene with a heart full of gratitude. Despite prior struggles, they had emerged into something new, a remarkable testament to the resilience of family. As the night drew to a close, Graham felt the warmth of joy caress him. It was a newfound sense of fulfillment that soothed any remnants of past fears, and in that moment, he knew that love could withstand any storm. They had risen from the ashes, redefined in a powerful way through shared experiences and a deep commitment to one another. Speaking softly, he expressed quietly to Rachel, "Look at how far we've all come." Rachel smiled back, and together they reveled in the beauty of the moment. The future seemed more brilliant than ever. A tapestry vividly stitched with love, hope, and laughter, illuminated by renewed trust and the promise of brighter days ahead. In the depths of every challenge faced, Graham had learned that love's healing grace would always find a way to shine, casting shadows aside as it propelled them forward into an ever-unfolding landscape alive with possibility.